Today in Career Preparedness, we're going to discuss workplace diversity. I'd like to begin by once again revisiting the things that we discussed on yesterday. Yesterday, we talked about undesired behaviors in the workplace. We talked about how fighting or getting into it with individuals that you work with could be considered as inappropriate. We talked about how they could lead to bad annual reviews, the possibility of being written up, or the possibility of possibly being suspended from work without pay, or even in the worst case scenario, being fired. We also, hopefully you gain from that the best thing that you could do is have a positive attitude while you're on your job. Having a positive attitude doesn't always mean that everything's going right in your life. It just means that you choose to have a good day. Today we're going to discuss, before we talk about what we discussed today, we also talked about one other very important topic on yesterday. That important topic that we discussed on yesterday was sexual harassment. Please remember that sexual harassment is any unwanted advance that takes place between two people during the course of the workday. It could be a verbal thing, a nonverbal thing, or a touch that basically is an undesired touch or an undesired comment that is being made by one employee to another employee. Anytime one employee feels uncomfortable based on an unwanted advance by the other employee, it is known as sexual harassment, and that is something that can lead to termination on the job. It's also something that we want to avoid while here at the Florence Freshman Center. We want to make sure that we don't inappropriately touch or say something to anybody that could be considered as out of the way. Today we're going to discuss workplace diversity. What is diversity? Let's think about that for a minute. Diversity basically means difference. It could be any type of difference that exists with people who work together. Dealing with workplace diversity of course could be race, it could be ethnicity, it could be gender, it could be sexual preference. There are lots of things that factor into workplace diversity. Dealing with today what we're going to talk about workplace diversity, what it looks like, how it could be a positive thing, and then we'll go from there, and hopefully by the time we're through with today's lesson, you will understand what workplace diversity is. Well, with no further ado, we'll begin today's lesson.
During the course of today's lesson, we will discuss diversity in the workplace. We will also discuss why it is that diversity has not always existed in all workplaces. We'll identify what diversity is, what types of diversity exist, and how it is that diversity now exists, and what the positives can be of having a diverse workforce or diverse employees on your staff. Diversity is basically described as being representative of all differences or representative of differences, period. It basically means that you have variety, whereas everybody doesn't look, act, or carry themselves in the exact same way. Having differences in variety in the workplace can bring forth a team that can be very successful as it relates to carrying the team forth and whatever it is that the goals are of the corporation that the team works in. There are various types of diversity that exist. 9 times out of 10 when people think of diversity, they automatically think of race. Race is just one type of diversity. There's also diversity that deals with ethnicity, country of origin, which was what ethnicity refers to, gender, male or female, sexual preference, whether or not individuals are homosexual, bisexual, or whether or not they are considered to be straight by today's standards. Religious toleration or different various religions that exist are also a different type of diversity that exists in the world, as well as whether or not a person has a disability or is missing some type of function that keeps them from functioning normally in society. There's also something that is considered as age diversity, young and old in the workplace. Understanding the history of our country goes a long way in terms of understanding why diversity didn't exist in any of the workplace. Our country was founded by Caucasians. Caucasians basically were the dominant ones, and dominant males dominated the Caucasian society. Therefore, for a long time, the workforce was dominated by white males. There was also a phenomenon that existed that was considered to be a glass ceiling, which is the idea that women could not reach the same status as men when performing the same duties or jobs. It means that you would have a man and a woman performing the same job, but the man would always make more money than the woman because of that glass ceiling, without necessarily the woman knowing that existed. You also had another phenomenon that existed that was known as the invisible man theory, which basically stated that minorities were absent from certain jobs and absent from the workforce, even though we know that minorities did exist in our nation throughout our nation's history. The women's liberation movement, as well as the civil rights era, went a long way in eradicating this idea of not allowing diversity on the job. Through those two movements, laws were passed that ended discrimination in the workplace and allowed for the opportunity to provide diversity in the workplace. There were laws that were passed that were known as affirmative action, which required quotas of certain numbers of racial groups, as well as women be allowed to participate in certain jobs and on the workforce that came as a result of that. As a result, diversity began by law as it relates to the workplace and as it related to the workforce. Society has greatly changed since then, and since that time those types of laws have been eradicated, and now when employers are looking to hire individuals, they look to hire the best person for the job regardless of race, socioeconomic status, gender, ethnicity, religion, or sexual preference, because there are basically laws that exist that don't allow them to discriminate based on those types of criteria. Why allow diversity? Allowing diversity basically allows society to be able to see itself reflected in the various businesses that it patronizes. This also allows employers to be able to get the best employees that can come in and do a good job. There's a word that is called synergy. Synergy means that you bring in different people with different talents that come in to work in a workplace. And from that group where everybody brings something different to the table, you're able to get a better situation as it relates to the workforce, and it makes your business stronger, and it also makes the workplace environment a better place for all individuals that are employed. Diversity in the workplace is something that does exist in the United States. It has not always existed in the United States, but now it does. And it also creates what is called the equality of opportunity, that everyone can get a job and everyone can participate in our economy.
After participating in this lesson, it is my sincere hope that you have an idea of what workplace diversity is and how our nation had to overcome obstacles in relationship to accommodating all people in relationship to the opportunities to be able to participate in our economy. Over the last couple of days, the last couple of lessons in this module, we've gone over workplace behavior, desired workplace behavior, undesirable workplace behavior, and diversity. I've also uploaded a review sheet. The next thing that you will do to finish out this module will be to take a small measurement exercise over this. There's also a quiz that is associated with today's lesson. That's the conclusion of module 2 as it relates to what we'll present to you, and I hope you have a great day today.